All right, here we go. All right, everybody, thank you. Greetings to Madison Place residents. We're honored to be here. You guys are the biggest neighborhood in Columbia Township, so we're honored to serve you. So glad you all came, and hopefully the people that are watching online, hello, or people that will be watching online, hello as well. This is our, help me out, Melissa, our third meeting in some of our major neighborhoods. We've had one over at Columbia G. We've had one over in Ridgewood at the Presbyterian Church Library, or not the Presbyterian, the Pleasant Ridge Library. I get confused in the Presbyterian Church in Pleasant Ridge, but we've had these. So they've been well attended, and we've got a lot of good information. We've exchanged a lot of positive things going on in Columbia Township. For those of you who don't know, I'm David Kubicki. I'm president of the Columbia Township Trustees. It's been a while since we've all been together for reasons we all know, and things we don't really need to talk about anymore, but it's been too long. We've got a lot of exciting things to talk about tonight, just so many great things going on in the township. And first of all, I'd like to introduce this incredible team tonight, okay? We'll start with those that aren't here, which is, let's go with Susan Hughes. First of all, I'd like to introduce her. She's our longest tenured member of our team. She couldn't be here tonight. She's been a trustee for 24 years, is a lifelong resident of Columbia Township, longtime resident of Madison Place, was born and raised in Madison Place. She's been through everything, and she's with us remotely. Hello, Susan. Miss Hughes, Susan Hughes. Next, I'd like to introduce to you our most recent trustee, board member to our team, our vice president of our trustees, a 15-year resident of Madison Place, who's our hardest working trustee, and he's virtually hit the ground running since he's joined. How long ago, Brian?
A year and 4 months.
A year and 4 months ago, Brian joined us, and he's hit the ground running. He's got so many great ideas that you'll hear about tonight, and he's our hardest working trustee, improving communication with podcasts and all kinds of other things. He's virtually everywhere. He's the talented and always pleasant Mr. Brian Lamar. Yeah. We love to hear applause, guys. I know this isn't a big crowd, but we love to hear applause. All right, and next we want to introduce to you on our slate of our public officials is our Chief Fiscal Officer. She's been a resident of Columbia Township in the Ridgewood District. You all know where Ridgewood is. It's way out, help me out, west? West. I've flunked geography. It's way out west. She's been a Ridgewood resident for 25 years. She's in charge of so many things in the township, but most important, she's in charge of keeping us in line. She's the always punctual, always pleasant, very talented, always under budget and ahead of schedule, Ms. Caroline Heeken. And now to the more important people is the staff that you all know and sometimes love. We sometimes love them too, and sometimes we don't, but that's okay. But now, okay, to the people you really should know, leading off is our brand new, well, when I say brand new, how long have you been here?
Almost 2 years.
Okay, yeah, but as long as Mike Lemon's here, she'll always be our rookie, okay? But anyway, she's been here for almost 2 years, but I still call her new. She can solve any problem we hand her. She is there for everybody, but runs the township with an iron fist and is our boss if we should actually decide to listen to her. It's the one, the only, Melissa Taylor. Otherwise known as the Velvet Steamroller. And she's tough, but she's cool. Next, the person that is actually the glue to the entire township, who couldn't be with us tonight. She's been here longer than Susan Hughes and came before Mike Lemon, our former administrator, if you recall. She's been with the township for over 25 years and really runs the show behind the scenes. The wonderful, the knowledgeable, and talented Ms. Kim Gray. Hello, Kim.
David.
What's that?
She lived on Grace Avenue.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Okay, she lived in Madison Place. Okay, there you go. Grab a microphone.
Kim Gray is not here this evening, as David just mentioned, but I wanted to give her a shout out. Kim lived in Madison Place for more than 10 years and was hired directly from Madison Place. And so we have 3, between staff and elected officials, we have 3 tied to Madison Place, Brian, Kim, and Susan. either former longtime residents or current residents, and we don't have that representation from any other neighborhood.
Thank you. And again, polite interruptions are welcome if I miss something. And all right, and next is our newest and youngest addition to this amazing team. She's often the first person the public touches, from her bright, angelic voice answering the phone to solving the problems of each situation that's thrown at her and managing it. From the early reviews, people seem to like her. She also plans all of our amazing events. For those of you you've attended some of them, like the Elton John event, the amazing Madison Place events we have on Murray Avenue, all those things, she's turned them up quite a notch and has brought them to a whole new level. She just makes everything brighter. She's the talented and always smiling Ms. Lauren Allison. Every now and again I call her Allison Lauren, but it's Lauren Allison, but I got it right this time. And last but not least is the man that wears so many hats in the township. He's our road and services superintendent. He's our street sweeper, our leaf and brush man, our snow plower extraordinaire. He can manage any project. He's also our most popular team member, the best politician, occasionally a bouncer when we have actually some of our hecklers show up to the office. He can do it all, and I heard he can even sing and dance. The man who needs no introduction, the lovely, the beloved, and talented Mr. John Cervisi. He's the one that makes us all look good with his snow plowing and everything else, and we'll get to that a bit later. And now to go to business, let's see. Got a limited time in this room, but I'm going to go to a little bit of the business real quick, and I'll make this informal since we don't have a ton of people here. But these are the revenues of Columbia Township. This came out in the last newsletter. But the biggest things we're proud of in this graph here is that we're down to the fact of all the revenues we collect for the township revenues, only 11.9% come from the residential property taxes. And the biggest thing we're really proud of is that, help me out, about 36%, do I have that right, Melissa? You're supposed to help me. 36% come from found sources of revenue, which is our Jed Z income and medical marijuana income. And I'll maybe give a brief explanation of how that happened, but almost 36% of our revenues that come into the township come from our Jed Z revenue, that is found resources of revenues from creativity and all kinds of open-mindedness and things that we do that we are really proud of, and the medical marijuana that give us the ability to go do some of the things we're going to talk about tonight and give back to the community. In terms of the recent tax reduction in the waste and recycling levy, and also the neighborhood economic development grants. So 36% or whatever view of our revenues come in from those revenue sources, and only 11.9% are reliant on the property taxes. That said, to really talk about some of the things tonight and all the great things that are going on. This is meant to be informal, so if I miss something or don't say something, you guys can feel free to interrupt me. But the medical marijuana revenue is, a few years ago, medical marijuana was coming into fruition, and the debate was, do you take it, do you not take it, what do you do? A lot of the communities declared moratoriums and said we don't want anything to do with it just because it was an easy thing to do, so a lot of the other communities did. And then somehow I got a call, and I said, I'm always open-minded and objective. So they called me, and we met with them, and we discussed what's in it for Columbia Township if we were to do it, and if we were to go stick them only in places that didn't impact our residents. So we have one, if you recall, if you are aware of this, over on the Ridge and Highland corridor. One's over there by like where Scherzinger is. Does everybody know where that is? The Red Roof Inn is, right across the street. And there's another, Mad Tree's original place. And there's another one that's over by the McDonald's, over there by Aldi, over there, where there's not really a lot of residents around, because people that weren't aware of it were concerned about what's going to happen with, residents, crime, whatever. And even though there's been nothing like that, because it's all been very well, what do I want to say, disciplined and governed and everything else. But the idea is could we get 2% of the revenues if we decide to go actually allow you to be here? And we finally got answers back that yes. So we now collect 2% of the revenues, and our first partial check or what have you from the first years of the documented income streams, we got about how much money, Melissa? About $500,000 came in revenues, and that's part of what funded the idea of, through the creativity of Brian Lamar, et cetera, to say, how can we go give money back to the communities in terms of lowering taxes, taking a leap of faith? The fear we have, where there's been some critics that have come around and said, why don't you give more money back? We're not sure it's going to be sustainable, because not sure what's going to happen with more clinics coming around, what's going on, does the COVID pandemic have more people staying home smoking or doing whatever they do with marijuana, less people, what's going to happen with that? And if they allow more clinics to come in the hand, we just need to understand it. But we decided to take a leap of faith and give some money back to the community in terms of the neighborhood economic development grants and the lowering the taxes. The JED revenues, if you recall, I'll give you a real quick reminder on that. About, I don't know, how many years ago was this, Melissa? Would you even venture to guess? How long ago did we do the JED? Or maybe, Carol? Probably 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, we decided that we could impose an income tax on our residents, which you can no longer do for a myriad of reasons, that you could impose an income tax on the businesses, since they're using a lot of the roads, the resources, the police, and everything else, but weren't necessarily paying taxes. So there's an income tax that goes on the businesses, which would be Home Depot, it would be some of the businesses over here in this corridor, would be the Marymount Promenade, 50 West, all these different businesses. There's an earnings tax that goes on them, but not the residents, and that collects about $1 million a year in revenues. So that's about $1.5 million in revenues we have coming in from those two revenue sources that give us the ability to do all the things, some of all the things we're doing tonight. So that said, I'm going to hand the ball off to talk about how Columbia Township is better than ever. We're financially stable and strong, and I'm going to hand it off to our Chief Fiscal Officer and our Township Administrator, Melissa Taylor and Caroline Heekin, to talk about this, and here we go.
Thank you, David. Sorry, I'm not as loud as David. Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Caroline, and you know Melissa. I just wanted to talk a little bit, in keeping with the theme of better than ever, about how we're financially better than ever, a few reasons for that, and most importantly, what that means to our residents. This Board of Trustees, who David introduced, Susan and Brian and David, are so experienced. They have such a diverse level of experience, and they're very ethical, and they're nice. They get along. They like each other, and that might not seem very important to our residents, but it is. When I get to go to Ohio Township Association seminars and training, and I meet other fiscal officers, I hear stories that let me know why it's so important that they get along. It means for you that our meetings run efficiently and effectively, and they're not about personal agendas, and we get a lot done in a meeting because they get along and they respect each other. So it is important to the bottom line. And that also frees up your wonderful professional staff to do what they do. And they are such a great group. They're hardworking, they also get along, and they just never leave. John just told me tonight that our newest employee on his staff has been here for 15 years. That's the newest guy. So I think they kind of like the way the staff gets along and the way the trustees treat them.
No drama.
No drama.
We don't do drama.
No,
we just
don't do
work
drama.
for you.
So, and that does really impact the bottom line. Financially, we are one of the strongest of the 49 communities in Hamilton County. Our reserve fund is better than ever. It's the highest it's ever been in history, and that's a great safety net because you just don't know what's coming. The other great thing about that is not only can we pay our bills, and because of what David talked about with the JEDSI, covering services that aren't covered by that, having money in the bank helps us make more money for the township and go after grants that we would not be able to go after if we didn't have the matching funds. And Melissa's the master of grants. I think she's applied for every possible grant in the world and gets most of them.
I'm turning a $250,000 one in this Friday. Another one.
Yeah. And again, just sorry to backtrack, but because the board just runs these meetings so efficiently and effectively and just looks at the what's best for the township, not what's best for them politically, there are not grants, what's the word I'm looking for?
All the revenue sources that we've been able to focus on because of the creativity of the trustees.
Yeah.
As David said, and I hear this phrase quite often, open-minded. A lot of communities, for example, when presented with the opportunity to allow a medical marijuana dispensary license to come here, most of the communities got caught up in the concern about what was going to happen outside the store, or how would we be sanctioning medical marijuana. Well, it's legal, and we've had absolutely no problems, and because we were creative, David and the trustee team were so creative to say, we will accept you in our community. There were only 3 licenses being given in Hamilton County, and we'll accept you in our community, but you'll share revenue with us. And so you as a resident do not have to open your wallet in this community as many residents in other communities do. So in cities, residents pay income tax on top of property tax, and then businesses pay property tax and income tax. In townships do not have income taxing authority. But similar to the creativity for the medical marijuana dispensary revenue sharing agreements, which, as we said, the very first year out of the gate generated $500,000 for this community, and instead of us doing something with it, we're giving it all to the residents, as David said. So the same with the Joint Economic Development District that David mentioned. We partnered with Fairfax, which is a municipality and has taxing authority on businesses. And so we put an income tax on our businesses, and so our businesses pay real property taxes and income tax. And then the medical marijuana dispensaries pay property taxes, income taxes, and host community revenue sharing fees. And residents pay property taxes. And so Caroline and I always like to point out, people share with us that, and I'm a former resident, I just recently moved, the residents tell us very often, our taxes are going up too much, you need to do something about it. So here's something that we think is important for you to know. There are 19 taxing agencies in Hamilton County for real property taxes. Only 3 are controlled by Columbia Township. Your police levy, your road levy, and the voter's choice every 3 years, the waste and recycling levy. The police levy goes on the books, goes back to the last time a police levy was passed was 2003. We're looking at 2022. The last time the road levy was passed, I think, was 2011. So that's 10 years ago this year. And with your vote to support the waste and recycling levy program renewal this past election, we cut tax rate off of the waste levy for you. We were the only community on the ballot in the state of Ohio that we know of that cut taxes in this past election. It cut the waste and recycling levy program back to its 2012 tax rate, 32% drop. So when your taxes are going up, it is not because of the people standing in front of you. We are working to try to offset that your taxes are going up by managing ours through the businesses opening their wallets so you don't have to. And as you see on the chart, David mentioned it, the orange is what residents pay. Everything in blue comes from these creative mechanisms that we've set up with our businesses. So you're the orange pumpkin for the season, pumpkin pie slice. And that's how often you open your wallet for those 3 levies only. We actually fund administration out of businesses. This township and many townships in the state do not have administration because you don't have funds to run them. We have administration because we have business revenues. So we just wanted to share with you the value of what we recognize, that we're in an urban county, and so we are an urbanized township, and that we are doing everything that we can, and we want to talk to you about that a little bit more tonight, so that you are not paying the full freight of the services that you're getting. In fact, as a result of the levy being cut for the recycling and waste this fall, all three of the levies that I mentioned are now, the cost of services far exceed the revenue generated for the levies by the residents. And so we, my terminology, subsidize the increasing cost of the services for police and roads and the waste levy through the business taxes. And in some cases, for example, the police, by several $100,000 a year. Our choices, if we did not have all these sources of revenue, would be to increase taxes or to cut services. So that pie chart, I hope you remember, is our ticket to a safe community, a community with high property values, and we just felt that it was really important for you to know that. And yes, we are into, as we joke, other people's money. In addition, we don't just sit on all of the money. We go after grants, and we're able to use the money to better leverage all the grants, as was mentioned. So stronger than ever for you.
Very well done. And, it's funny because sometimes, you get in these mundane kind of things, you talk about things, and you get your boilerplate language, but to lower taxes was a very, very, very bold move. Nobody else did it, and I'm a developer by trade, and seeing a lot of my colleagues saying, you guys are actually lowering taxes, and what a bold move it is. And that really came upon the brainchild. Now, there's a lot of people that came up with the ideas of, Am I on? Okay. All right. Anyway, a lot of people had a lot of creativity in how the revenues came in, but the brainchild of thinking, how do we go bring this back to the residents in a nice way, came from Brian Lamar, and he came to me and kind of thought, how can we go give some of this money back to the community, take a leap of faith that some of these income streams will not only be stable, but they'll go up, which is a bit of a risk. And I thought, you know what, if you can get with Melissa and you guys can figure out a way to go do it and put a tax levy in the ballot to reduce taxes, I'll get behind it. How can you not get behind it rather than just stockpiling money? So the good news is that's what happened, and by seeing what the voters voted for, everybody understood the concept, and it got supported. I don't know, what was the final tally?
It was close to 90%.
Close to 90%, so that's remarkable. And I'm really proud of this team for doing this, so that's a really remarkable feat. With that said, we're going to talk about more good things we're doing with our sources of revenue, and nobody else has this luxury, which is we're going to go talk about our neighborhood economic development grants. And I know Lauren Allison spent some time on this, Brian Lamar did, Melissa Taylor, but I'm going to let Brian Lamar, our Vice President of our Trustees, and Melissa Taylor talk and explain or talk about the status of the neighborhood economic development grants. We'll lead off with Brian.
I think I'll be pretty quick here. We talked a lot about all the revenue sources we have in the township, which is just a luxury. And so one of the ways we're giving it back was the tax cut, and the other big way is the neighborhood economic development grants. So everybody should have got a postcard with a bulldog on it where you voted. There we go. That's not my bulldog. That's a different bulldog, unfortunately. So the voting is over. I don't know who won. Do you know who won?
We do. We have a special
Breaking
announcement.
news.
Breaking news.
You want to tell everybody?
It just came in this afternoon. So Madison Place, our major neighborhoods had the chance to vote for one of two major public improvement projects, either street trees or designer street signs, and Madison Place overwhelmingly voted for street trees. I will say that in the event that there are funds left over after the street tree project, that we will look at applying those funds to designer street signs. Madison Place is receiving nearly the largest allocation for the project because you are the largest neighborhood. So it's a $500,000 program, and Madison Place's allocation based on your households is nearly $250,000, so nearly half of it. So we have a lot of money that we're going to be able to do beautification in the neighborhood with you. And so as I said, we might be able to even squeeze out like 1.5 projects out of this. So we'll see how that goes. It's a 2-year program. We just started it this year, and we'll kick off that piece of it in 2020.
The only thing I would mention is every neighborhood, Madison Place voted, and every other neighborhood, there's a lot of neighborhoods in Columbia Township. Ridgewood voted on something. They probably got something different. Williams Meadow over by Kroger probably voted on something different. So we try to customize it by neighborhood, and whatever the people's choice was won. So trees won, so that's good news.
And so what we'll do in 2022, we are not making this decision for you. The commitment with this program, in the first word of the name, was neighborhood. So we are going to contract with a certified arborist who is going to work with your community and with each individual homeowner to assess if you have a tree, if it's still in good condition, or does it need to come out. If you don't want a tree, street trees, I'm sorry, thank you. Street trees. Thank you. I'm hearing something I'm going, it's coming from, sounds like.
Not every tree.
Okay, street trees, so sorry, street trees, the canopy of trees that runs along the street, thank you. And then they will come up with a plan and circle back to the neighborhood in working groups, neighborhood meetings, to show the final plan. And if you have a lot of room in your yard or you don't have a lot of room in your yard, if you have a pole or a very mature tree next door that is going to block the light for part of the day, this arborist, who's going to be a third party, is going to take all of those conditions into account and make a recommendation for you and work with you for what is best for you. So it really is going to be your choice within those parameters. And we're going to contract for an arborist in 2022, and then run the program through the spring and early summer with the goal that the best time to install street trees is fall, and then we want to have the bags with the watering program. We want to do it right. We're going to put in a little bit more mature trees so that they have a greater likelihood of living. So we're really going to do this right, and we're going to do it with you, one by one, house by house.
Okay, thank you. And again, we get really sterile here. We don't have a huge crowd, but the enthusiasm of all the things going on in Madison Place. We got the bike trails coming in. We'll get the next with the Firehouse getting improved. You've got the streets all getting improved, and we've got the $250,000 invested in the neighborhood. The goal is to continue to invest in this neighborhood so that it's the greatest place to live, and that you go have street festivals, you have street trees, you've got eventually architectural street signs, and we go look and go, wow, this neighborhood is transformed into one of the greatest communities, so well located and everything else. The objective is to continue to invest in these neighborhoods, create the sense of pride, create the sense of neighborhood, create the sense of community, and obviously improve property values, which indirectly will help keep taxes at bay. So that's the objective, that's the goal, and everything we're trying to do. And this is a really talented, creative, dynamic, and now well-funded board that we're now able to continue to invest. And we'd love to hear suggestions that are positive from you guys in the community of things we can do to continue to make the community better. That said, we're going to move on to our next topic because we want to get out of here within an hour, so we keep everybody's attention span, not the least of which is mine, okay? And we're going to hand it off and talk about the better roads faster, and there's nobody more talented, more delightful, more appealing, and more sensitive to talk about this than John Cervisi. John Cervisi and Melissa Taylor are going to talk about this.
Which one's sensitive? Neither.
Not me.
Well, as most of you here know me, I can say in the past several years, we put in more streets, new streets, since I've been here. We've done many in Madison Place, We've got plans, we've got skip applications out for next year. We're getting them out. And we've got 2 roads that are gonna be done next year, which will be Cambridge on the west side, the 1 block there off of Plainville over to Edith. That'll be completely redone, new curbs, new drainage, new asphalt roads. And then we've got Buckingham, the upper part of Buckingham. What's that? Not the whole thing, no. No. Buckingham was actually. Yeah, right. Right. I was here when that was done. I was on the business end of the shovel at that time, but the lower part was done 18, 20 years ago. And it's still in pretty good shape. We're going to do the upper part with the grants that we've received and our matching funds, of course. I got to tell you, roads aren't cheap at all. I mean, people don't realize how much money the township spends, even if we do a matching grant. Rose Street was right around $1 million. Every street that we put in the last several years has been $1 million plus. And when we redo a road, it's not done on the cheap. We do it right. We dig down, we get good dirt, we put number 2 rock in. It's done right. We do the drainage.
John, your point right there, that historically has been a promise of the drainage in Madison Place.
Yes, Madison.
Done right.
Right, you're right. Madison Place is a struggle because everybody knows where our Firehouse is. That's the lowest point in Madison Place. And that takes on about 100 and some odd acres of water that comes off of Indian Hill and the surrounding area. It takes about 100 acres there of drainage water.
I think what David was mentioning is that there was a history before this current administration where the roads were not maintained correctly, and it contributes to problems. And so now that we are doing a complete overhaul of all roads through the township, we have to take them all the way down to the dirt, as he said, and completely start over because they weren't all done correctly back at a time when the township did not have the funding mechanisms that we have today. So it was what's the best that we can do given the very small amount of money that we have. And John mentioned that our road projects are really expensive. We have the levy that I mentioned earlier, the road and bridge levy, generates $650,000 a year. And we're trying to do a couple of road projects a year because we have so many roads that need replaced. We can't touch a road for under $1 million. So John and I worked together with several engineering, our engineer and a couple of specialty engineering consultants this past year plus. Every week it seemed our heads were bent over the planning table, and we came up with a new 10-year plan to prioritize all of our roads. And what we learned from that update is that 77% of the roads that the township owns, which is mainly the neighborhood roads, are in good or good to fair condition. And then 23% are in poor. And the majority of the poor are in Madison Place. And one of the reasons for this is that the history of how the road maintenance was performed before this administration. And also, very significantly, because Madison Place is mainly a neighborhood off to the side, so to speak. There's not a lot of, it may feel like it by living there that people are cutting through, but it's not as much of a thoroughfare road. And so when we try to take $650,000 a year and go and build multi-million-dollar roads, we have to go for state grants. And the state grant scoring does not favor roads in neighborhoods like Madison Place. So many of the roads in Madison Place fell behind because we only had the funds if we were able to go through the state grants. And what we're going to be able to do now is with the opportunity that was presented by the Porsche expansion, all the new tax revenue from Portia, we set up a district where we're going to capture all of the new tax revenue after the Cincinnati schools are paid. And the law requires that that money be put into public improvements in the vicinity of that project site. And so we are going to be able to do up to 2 Madison Place roads per year in the next ever how many years, as a result of being able to use money for that to boost our ability to, through the state scoring process. We basically buy a higher score through more local funding, and once again, this is coming from a business and not from the residents. And what John is doing, and you can explain this, is that we could do 2 roads a year for the next 5 years, but we recognize there are parking and other considerations, and so we want to be really careful not to make it too disruptive on you. So,
right, as everybody knows, Madison Place, probably around 500 houses in Madison Place, and there's probably 2 to 3 cars for every house. So you've got parking issues. A lot of the houses were built back in the 50s with the garages underneath that are really, you can't put today's cars in them. You can't open the doors. So everybody's parking on the street. So what we want to make sure that we're aware of is the parking needs for our residents. So we don't want to start a project where 2 streets parallel each other and we're doing both streets at the same time. We'd save a little bit of money doing it that way, but not enough for all the headaches it would cause our residents. You know, parking is in a premium in Madison Place. We understand that, and we want to make sure that when we do our roads, we take that into consideration.
and we're going to come to you with each road project as soon as we have a draft design. So the next 2 roads that we will have a draft design for in the next few months, as John mentioned, Cambridge West, so Plainville to Edith, and then Buckingham, the eastern part up the hill. We are going to come to you, your street, have a street get-together, and go through the plans with you, and we are having our engineer look at each individual house, because a lot of things have happened over the years. People have built retaining walls, people have modified their driveways, people have put in different types of structures that will impact our ability to do the road and also to do sidewalks. And so we are going to make ourselves available and our engineers available to you to go through any considerations that you want taken into account for any issues for your property. And this is on top of we, the staff, multiple times as the engineers are designing the project, when they're in the field collecting information, we meet with them and give them our known issues in the area, and they factor that into it. And then when they have a preliminary understanding, we then walk the site multiple times and stop at each home. You may see us hanging out sometimes and say, here's what we understand a concern here might be, and here's something we need to factor here. We have a fire hydrant in the way here, those types of things. So we are going to be talking with you to help finalize our plans, making sure everyone's needs and concerns are addressed in more of a community street block style get together. And so we should be looking at starting that at the beginning of 2022.
Now, I will say, thank you, Melissa. I will say that Vinewood, Hurd, and Buckingham, they are engineering nightmares because they're built on a hill like this. So you've got a driveway coming down and then a driveway going down. So we can't widen the road. If you widen the road, you make this driveway too steep and this one too steep. Then people can't get their vehicles in their driveways or even in their garages, the ones that utilize their garages. So that is it's tough on the engineer, trust me. He and I go over a lot of the plans. I've walked Buckingham and Cambridge several times already, and he's still drawing the plans up. So there's a lot that we take into consideration for that. Cambridge, not so much. It's pretty flat. A lot of you have seen that Murray's been redone. That's temporary. We're not going to stop there. That'll be part of a total reconstruct. Also, it was just falling apart so bad, we just had to do a mill and overlay on that, which helped get us through the next few years. It's really tough with those, like I said, with Vinewood, Hurd, and Buckingham, because of the slopes of the driveways, trying to get everything to fit. You know, we're going with a different type curb. I think we're going to try to get a road curve in up there. So, you know, to match everything else, like what's on Rose Street. And it takes a lot to get all that done. So if anybody has any concerns, if you're on one of the streets that we're going to be building next year, don't hesitate to call. Somebody will meet you out there and talk to you. And I mean, whatever the concern is, we're here for the residents. We're only working because you guys are here. So if you have any concerns, don't hesitate to call me.
Is Grace on?
I'm sorry?
Grace is?
Grace is, it's one of the tougher streets also, with drainage. So, we're working, the engineers are working on that one also. Now, I know Melissa said the next few years, we're gonna try to do 2 streets a year, but if I'm not,
Pulling that closer when they come.
yeah, and also grant money, right? If we don't get grant money, or I don't know what the process is there. I guess we've not worked it out all the way together, but the grant money would be a significant amount of money. So,
And to compliment Melissa, the team, with some of the sources of revenues, the biggest reason why we're kind of highly graded in these grants is because of some of the revenue sources we have. And Melissa, you could maybe give us the idea that the more money we contribute, the higher our grades go and the faster we can get these roads done, because of the matching revenues from Columbia Township. That said, Lauren, can you help me pull this up a little bit closer? Okay, next we're going to talk about, again, everybody doing well so far? We've bored you to death, or are you doing all right? You guys surviving so far? This is informative. And these are deeper dives we can take that we can't generally get in these Columbia Township, our typical Columbia Township meetings. So next we're going to talk about another topic that people talk about all the time, which is the Little Miami Fire District. You know, I kind of see occasionally we get lit up in social media, maybe even me more than anybody, about what we can and can't do. Well, first of all, I'm not on the board of the Little Miami Fire District, and they're separate taxing authority. We are 2 of 6 votes on that board of what we can and can't do. So if you get a fire tax increase, really there's not a lot we can do. Maybe we have a bit of influence on it, but we don't really have direct correlation to it. And historically speaking, I would say that our information from the fire districts, I should say fire districts in general, not just ours, but everybody, it's not unique to us, has not been the greatest. And that's part of why we brought Mike Lemon, our former administrator, back to give us better intelligence, better information, so we can make informed decisions. So what I thought I'd do tonight, as I've done to other communities in general, is explain to everybody so they understand the anatomy of what it takes to run a fire department in simple terms. You can just memorize this. You don't even have to go write this down or take pictures of it, which is to run a fire department, here are the basic components it takes, which is you need firefighters. You need 4 guys, 3 shifts, 24/7, 4, 4, and 4. So between salary and benefits for a firefighter, for a professional firefighter, is going to be about $100,000 a year with legacy benefits, which is about $1,200,000 in labor. You need a fire chief. I put down salary and benefits about $150,000 a year. Now these are just round numbers. It doesn't mean you can't do it for less. It's just a rough idea, just so everybody gets to thinking. You need an assistant fire chief, possibly, which would be $120,000 a year. You need a fire engine and backup equipment. A fire engine's about $1 million to buy a fire engine. They last us about 20 years, which means you need budget about $50,000 a year for a fire engine. So you need that. Then you need an ambulance and backup equipment. An ambulance, we budgeted about $400,000 for a new fire ambulance, 10 years. 10 years, which is about $40,000 a year, plus you need a backup. So I'm not even including backup. I'm just giving you simple math. You need a facility. I mean, we've got a brand-new facility, some like Mariemont's got an older facility, Gulf Manor had an older facility, but you need to budget between turning the lights on, insurance, maintaining it, redecorating it, updating it, and paying rent, if you have a rent. I just threw out $100,000 a year. Ours is significantly higher because we have debt on the building in Fairfax that we share with others, but whatever the case, you gotta budget something, and a lot of people don't budget anything. And then after that, you've got vehicles, which is the fire department vehicles, the little SUVs you see sirens on, you got miscellaneous training. I just threw out an arbitrary number of $150,000 a year. I put $0 in contingency for you business people that just realize you have to put contingency whether you're remodeling a house or whatever. So my math says a fire department should cost about $1.8 million a year. That's about what it costs to run a fire department in basic numbers. I'm not suggesting this is what the Little Miami Fire Department runs on, but that's what it costs. Our revenues, let's go here. Our revenues for the Little Miami Fire District. Again, I'm no part of it. There's two members that sit on our board, but we get criticized because of the problems of the Little Miami Fire Department. Our revenues come in like this. From the Fairfax Little Miami Fire District, you've got Columbia Township in tax revenues pays about $850 roughly. Fairfax pays about $750, so you got $1.6 million in revenues. You got $1.8 million in budget. They're always going to be underwater. So people can throw rocks every single year, a year after year. It's not the firefighter's fault. It's not the fire chief's fault. It's not our fault. It's just you don't have enough revenues, and part of it is because, to give you an example, the Mariemont Fire Department has the same math. They have to have 4 guys 24/7, regardless. We have to have 24/7. Mariemont does 568 runs. Little Miami Fairfax does about 748. Now, these two overlap a lot because they're running across each other, so in theory, between the two of them, they probably do closer to about 1,000 runs because they're both going to the same places, but roughly. The Deer Park Silverton Fire Department, which we contract in another part of the district, does with about the same size fire department, 1,725 runs. So our objective when we brought back our team was to say we somehow need to get Mariemont on board. It should have happened 20 years ago, whether it's politics, personalities, emotions, whatever it is, egos, those departments should have been meshed together because then you would have 1,200 runs, and if you go back to the math here, you would have $1.8 million budget. You'd have 800 coming from roughly Columbia Township, 800 coming from Fairfax, 800 coming from Mariemont. Now you got $2.4 million to run a fire department. We have worked tirelessly and endlessly to get Mariemont to work to this, but Mariemont, because of the disproportionate amount of listening people have done historically to listening to their experts, which is the fire chiefs, and not bringing in business leaders, which is why we brought Mike Lemon back in to help us get better intelligence. Too much effort has been listened to on the fire chiefs and not enough on the business people. You have to have a mesh of both. What do we need and how do we make this work? So Mariemont's convinced their board right now by putting too much emphasis. They're going through the same phase that we've gone through historically, putting too much emphasis on listening to their experts or convincing their citizens that they can run their fire department for $960,000. And I said, are you budgeting to replace fire engines? Well, they got to buy a new fire engine, not budgeting anything. Well, I think that's fine. But in 10 years, your fire engine is gone. You have $1 million air bowl. You're not budgeting to replace. So that's where we're running into where they're misleading. I don't want to say misleading. That is the exercise everybody goes through till they hit a wall. And what we're now saying is historically over time, this is what it costs to run a fire department. We need 3 partners. That's where we're at. The Gulf Manor experiment didn't work. We'd like to have Mariemont on board. They're going through the same process where they're convinced that they can run a fire department for $960,000. I disagree with that. I went and attended their meeting. I got flushed out of there really quickly because they didn't want to hear it. But that's what it's going to take. So historically, we're on the fire department. We will always have fire services. If we have to go pull money out of our JED-Z or medical marijuana money, the good news is we've got the money, no matter what, to fund that department. Unfortunately, it's been underfunded, and it's always going to be that way. We got to find creative ways to find out how do we solve that problem. Do we go buy the building and give it to the fire district? Do we go buy other things? What can we do with our sources of revenues, combined with the fact that Fairfax has got a lot of money, and how do we go do this since we can't get Marymount to align? And the drag why I keep going back to Marymount is because we drive through each other's communities. We drive from Fairfax through Marymount to get to Madison Place, drive through Marymount to through Fairfax, through Marymount to get to 50 West, Williams Meadow. It makes no sense, but I've gone through the process of thinking they have not come to that realization. They will one day. And the good news is we've got more money than they do. Fairfax has got more money, so we can figure out a way to solve this problem. We will solve the problem. Now it's a matter of, now that we realize that they're not convinced that they need us, and I think they need us more than we need them, because we can afford to subsidize it. That is the fundamental component. Anytime you hear the word fire, we're on it. We got it. We need a third partner. It's not the firefighters' fault. We got a great group of people, great group of first responders, great team here that's on it. It's just that it's always going to be underwater because it's underfunded. And all we can do is to continue to have the fire district raise taxes, or we can find a way, can Columbia Township do something to contribute to it? And the only reason why we can do that is because of all the decisions you hear us talk about in every meeting that we've made historically. And that's why we sit here outside of the meetings when we get hit sometimes by, or you get hit in social media and saying that's the real truth of what's going on with the fire department. We need a third partner, and we're desperately, and when I say desperately, we're tirelessly working to get that. Unfortunately, you're in politics, you can never get people singing from the same sheet of music. It's just where we are. That said, and we're going to open this up to questions later, so take all your notes and everything else. I'm going to let Brian Lamar talk a little bit more of the current issues and things.
Just two quick things to really three. I'm on the fire board, so Melissa and I are the representatives of Columbia Township, so we have voting power, so you can hold us accountable for that. Two things, it's public knowledge now that Gulf Manor was our third partner, and this doesn't affect any Madison Place resident at all, but they backed out of the district in their meeting last week, so this doesn't affect anyone in Madison Place. It really affects the Ridgewood neighborhood where Caroline lives and the Ridge and Highland area. So we will be voting on a new contract for that district soon. But for this area, everything's going to remain stable. We have a great partner in Fairfax, so the two of us will be servicing this community through that fire station in Fairfax. And the only thing I would mention is that we have fire board meetings every month. That's tomorrow night we have one, or Wednesday night. Wednesday night we have one. We'll likely be voting in a new fire chief. So the old fire chief is retiring. Terry Timmers, who was in Fairfax for 40 plus years. He's a big part of the community. He worked in the Murray Avenue Firehouse as well. He's retiring, and so we'll be voting on a new chief soon and get started right away. I think that's all I wanted to add. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Lauren. Okay, and anyway, but the fire we're on, don't anybody think we're not. We don't have a lot to do with it as much as people think we do, but we're on it. Don't let anybody make a mistake, and we will never go without safety services. If we have to go down there, and John Cervisi, you can, okay, John can do anything, so if nothing else, and yes. John's got a cape and a suit in the back of his truck. He can do it all, okay? All right, anyway, that said, let's go lighten the mood a little bit now. Are you guys ready to do that? Because so am I. All right, that said, we're going to talk about the community events, the wonderful community events. I don't know if anybody went down to the Elton John concert we had down at 50 West. That was fabulous. Encourage you guys. We're going to try to do more of those things. Again, trying to bring the community together, trying to make it exciting, trying to make it fun, trying to give ourselves a brand and identity of what Columbia Township, Madison Place, and everything is. The Madison Place Street Festivals at Murray Avenue, now that we have, I hope, most of the pandemic over with, that we can continue to do those things. We got the Firehouse going on and everything else. So with that said, I'm going to hand it to our lighter, sweeter, more presentable and likable than me, Lauren Allison, and slightly more likable than me, Melissa Taylor. Yes, here you go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'll be quick because I know it's almost 7 o'clock. My name is Lauren Allison, or Allison Lauren, as some people like to call me. I answer to both. It's been a problem my whole life.
We call her LA woman.
LA works too, yeah. So I was brought on a little over a year ago just to kind of help in the front office with Mel and Kim and the wonderful team that I'm now a part of. And another dual role, a part of my position is working on the Madison Place Firehouse. We are trying to get it going and to get it moving. I look forward to working with all of you guys. If you guys have any suggestions on, what kind of events you would like to have or what kind of groups you would like to have at the event center. Like John said, we work for you, so you guys can tell me what you would like to have there. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit on the Madison Place Firehouse. We had a community-wide Zoom. We've done a number of things. Yeah, and in the last edition, which was a complete departure for us, we did a very special edition of The Voice. We had 4 pages about the firehouse in that, and so it is going to be a venue that we are going to give back to the community. It's the only building that Columbia Township owns in Columbia Township. And so the trustees made the decision to renovate it. It's proving to be a challenge through COVID because of supply backlogs and contractor shortages and such. And we'll call it she's 70 years old, and we're trying to do an extreme makeover to modernize her so that she works for you. And so our intent is to give the firehouse back. We're going to move Columbia Township administrative offices to the firehouse, and the township hall will be in the former equipment bay. They call it apparatus bay. So where the original fire engines from the 1950s were parked in the front of the building, we are going to turn into the township hall, but we'll only use it 1 or 2 days of the month, and then it will be available to you as residents and the nonprofits and the churches and all the other groups that you are a part of to use. And we are tricking it out. It is going to have a full professional kitchen and a bar. What we heard through our research, we brought a national research company in, and they told us, they talked to a lot of nonprofits in the region about what were some of the needs and challenges, and they all said, we need to fundraise, and in order to fundraise, we need to bring people into a space that people are interested in coming, can have a good time. We can really serve them well with food and spaghetti and pancakes and all those wonderful things, other things. So we took all of the research and put it into a plan, and so we are going to hopefully try to open that. We're about a year behind schedule, as I said, because of COVID impacts. We also have Anne-Marie, principal here, and I were talking about this. They're looking at some facility renovations that are necessary to the school. We have the same issues, concrete block walls. In that building, in order to hold 2 fire trucks up, the floor is concrete over steel. And in order to get kitchens and bar drains and other things, lighting and everything through, we have to drill through that floor. So we have structural engineers and others and things like that. So it's coming soon to you, and what Lauren's role is to close this. Lauren we brought on for a dual purpose, the first new township employee in 15, 16, 17 years. I think it was 17 years. Was twofold. When I was hired, the trustees said that we want to kick up our engagement with the community. We want to meet more residents. We want residents and neighbors to meet each other, and we want the neighborhoods to meet each other. And we want to do a better job of coming to you with information that you're interested in about what we're working on, how our operations work and how we fund them, and then how the community is developing. And one of the pieces that we were so lean in the front office that we brought Lauren on, and her dual role. First, her role is resident services coordinator. So she's on the phones, she's on social media, and she is working events like this. She is your point person. She is dedicated to your care, love, and care. And then when we open the firehouse, and she's working with me now, I'm managing the capital side of the project, and she's working on the engagement, the resident engagement. She will be coordinating all of the bookings for the firehouse. And what we have said and what we are asking of you this evening is, that we want to put together a priority list of residents who are involved in, as I said, nonprofits, other organizations. Either you're a member, you're on the board, Mommy and Me, Girl Scouts, academia, Save the Trees, homeless animals, whatever. We want to put together a priority list of groups that can use it at no cost. And then get priority scheduling. And then when it's not being used by our priority groups, we will make it available for private events for a nominal cost. So we have set up two ways to connect. One is through Lauren directly.
Yeah. If you call the office, you'll probably talk to me.
And talk to her. And we're looking for you to tell us, I'm part of all of these groups, and would you please put them on the list? And then we're going to collect all of those nominations and come up with a final list for those groups to be able to use that really, did I mention Tricked Out? Firehouse. For your meetings or your fundraisers or whatever. Your family comes into town, you want to do bangles or something like that. And then the other piece is, and it's also go back and look at your voice, Firehouse memories.
Yes, and since you guys live in Madison Place, you guys are the closest with the Firehouse. So if you guys have any memories or if you have just stories about the Firehouse that you'd like to share, we're going to do somewhat of like memory walls inside the Firehouse once it does open up. So it'd just be great to have different collections of, you know, past times and hopefully new times that we'll have there.
Photographs, memorabilia, or just memories. You can call us and just say, I remember when I was, and we will type it. And we actually are going to build it into experience rooms. You'll be able to walk through the Firehouse and be able to hear audio and see photographs and see memorabilia. So we'd love to have you back in the Firehouse like you were at some point in its history.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And again, the Firehouse will be exciting. I think it's going to add value to the neighborhood, give you a place for whether it's family reunions, graduation parties, in addition to some of the other community and charity events, and also to pump a little more enthusiasm. Going back to the street festivals we've done and everything else, I think it really adds value to the community. The more contagious that stuff gets, the more momentum it gets. And Lauren has done an incredible job of the last one we did right after COVID. I challenged these guys. It was the Jimmy Buffett event. I don't know if any of you guys went to it. But I challenged these guys and thinking, you know what, now that they kind of left them restrictions, can we do this? Can we do it within 30 days? And they miraculously, Melissa, John, and his team, Lauren, they pulled it off. So these guys can really do some wonderful things, and we intend to get back to doing more of those things, only to continue to enhance the brand of Columbia Township, Madison Place, and make it an incredible, fun place to be with everything we talked about tonight. So with a lot of the stuff that we're always catching spears in these meetings and defending ourselves and dealing with some of the, you know, negative things that go on, there's so many great things we're doing. And we've really got a lot of great people. And I want to give it up to everybody here tonight. First of all, to our camera guys out here. Help me out, Rob, Elliot. And to this incredible team, Lauren, John, Brian, Caroline, what's your name again? And Melissa. And then, more importantly, I want to give it up to all you guys. So thank you. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So with that, let's open it up to questions if you have any, or comments, or anything else. And first, before I get there, do you guys like having these type of meetings? Is this informative to you? Yeah. So glad to hear that. It's a little different structure than what we're able to talk and take deeper dives. But you had a question. Go ahead.
Sidewalks are included.
Good, wonderful. And the other, just a comment, I don't know if you had anything to do, or you, with the Murray Trail that was just redone.
We did.
Fabulous.
Good, well,
I didn't like the temporary, I didn't know. it was
Oh, yeah.
temporary. And I thought,
I'm really,
now,
one of my first duties as a trustee was I got to give a check to that for $75,000, which I'm not even sure I voted on, but I grabbed the giant check and gave it to him. So yeah, we absolutely supported that financially, and our great partners in Marymount Mariemont's on one side, we're on the other. It's beautiful. Now with the landscaping, I know that the people that live where you all live have gone through a lot over the past few years with all the new roads and the Porsche and now the Murray Avenue construction. So hopefully you can start to see the light now that it's beautiful. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And more to come on that. And especially, yeah, the next phase also will come by the Firehouse. It'll keep going. It'll keep going eventually. That's off the record. Hopefully we're not filming that. But also, it changes the Flying Pig Marathon. It was beautiful, so I'm going to work with them about maybe having some sort of event to really promote Columbia Township as they run through there, because there was parties and tents, which I hadn't really seen a lot of before, but now with the beautiful path, it'll emerge even more beautiful. So I'll add that. Good question. Thank you.
And again, when you see things like the Murray Bike Trail and everything else,
It's got 2 months.
saying about the amount of things, even the Wooster expansion, which was
Even the Woostie, sorry about that, not talking about Michael. Even the Woostie expansion has done a lot for Madison Place indirectly, that I know there was a little bit of heartburn with some of the things that went on there, but whatever the case, the good side of it is now coming with some of the contributions to the Firehouse, the bike trail, some other things we're doing in Madison Place, some of the street renewals and everything, the street improvements and everything else. So you had another question back here.
Two very quick things. One, I absolutely love the trail. We really utilized it, and the fact that we Murray is awesome too. Really nice in the stroller. However, the section of Berwick between Murray and, I brought this up to you, maybe this isn't the place for it, but if you could somehow prioritize the section of Berwick between Murray and Cambridge, like on a stroller, I feel like I'm in the Wild West. It's on the list.
So when they do Cambridge, that part of Cambridge, which will be in 2023, they will go around a little bit on Berwick. And so that'll really help that. And I'm speaking a little bit out of turn.
You're talking at Murray?
Berwick or between Cambridge and Murray.
Yeah.
Like completely broken up.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but that section of Berwick, we own the center line west. Marymount owns the center line east. So to do that, we'll look to Marymount to see if they can piggyback with us and do the whole road at one time. If not, we can't spend our taxpayer dollars in Marymount.
Well, in that vein, my second thing I was going to bring up, maybe not the right venue as well, but we've got these couple of fingers of City of Cincinnati that extend into Madison Place. And as a new parent, the fact that there's no stop signs on those streets scares the heck out of me walking and driving. People fly up Britain and Merwin.
Understood. I live on Palmetto and there's none.
All the City of Cincinnati got it. I guess I'm a Karen, but
Yeah, we cannot put stop sign.
I didn't know if you would have more sway than just a resident.
Yeah, we can't erect stop signs on a city street out of our jurisdiction. We can reach out to the city of Cincinnati and see if they will, but I don't know that they will, because typically a thoroughfare, you don't have stop signs at every corner. You have one thoroughfare all the way up, and the crossing streets have the stop signs. So I don't know that they will. We were surprised as anything when they put the four-way stop at Rowe and Plainville. That just shocked us to death. We had no idea that was even coming. The city of Cincinnati doesn't come to us and say, hey, we're going to do these things.
But I'll say this, I didn't catch your name? Katie. Katie, if anybody can put that together, it would be Ms. Melissa Taylor. There's nobody who can wave a magic wand and take the velvet steamroller, kick it in the gear, and run over everybody and get what you need done. What's that? No, I know that, but if it's a life safety issue and you need some passion and enthusiasm, at some point in time, continue to champion that cause, and it gets louder and louder, and people can work with you and at least give you some encouragement. If anybody can do it, they can do it. I'm not telling you we can make something out of nothing, but that's it. And also, the other thing, too, is to make sure everybody knows at 50 West, they're going to have a skating rink down there this year for kids, grandkids, anybody you know, players to be named later, free skating for Columbia Township residents. free ice skating. Just tell them you know John Cervisi, and anybody you know will skate down there for free. Seriously, go take advantage of it. It is a perk of living in Columbia Township. We got a card coming out, Lauren, when? Soon. Okay, soon. We got a card coming out within the next week, but take advantage of it, use it. It's part of why you live in Columbia Township and Madison Place, is to go take advantage of these free perks.
If you don't skate well or you're concerned about falling.
You talking about me?
Blinds.
Okay.
They have blinds, and you push them out in front of you, and you can go all over that ice, out, falling, and it's super.
Like training wheels. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Thank you all for coming. We'll keep doing this. Thank you. Peace.